I think there are a few scenarios to think about with challenging moments. And there are lots of ways you can be challenged. I think you can be challenged by someone challenging you. They can challenge your authority, where a student will just say something completely unexpected. They may challenge something that's in the case. They may challenge you. They may disagree with the instructor. The instructor is trying to generate a conversation across the participants, but a participant might just reach out and say, well, what do you think? And that might be a challenge.
Sitting here, I was struck by how hard it was to interpret if what he was writing is what he thought was really important.
When it does happen, a couple of ways to respond. One is to respond in a way that is, it's a little counterintuitive, but it's sort of embracing the challenge in the moment. There's an interesting expression that comes out of improv theater, and it's called always accept the offer. And you can think about some improv situations where the improv actors are on stage and someone from the audience throws out a word. Maybe it's a location, maybe it's a character, and they immediately have to start creating a story and a scenario that relate to that character. Somebody calls out another location or another scenario, and they have to quickly move into that. And the rule for that is always accept whatever's thrown to you and work with it. And I think that's a helpful principle with case teaching too. Sometimes the worst thing to do is to resist or push back when you hear something that you don't expect. There's another way of framing that, which is what we call sort of judo strategy. If you imagine a typical judo match, you may have a difference in weight and power between one of the fighters versus the other. And one of the great arts of judo is maybe even being a smaller, apparently more vulnerable participant, is sort of using that weight, really leveraging that weight and in a way that actually helps propel the discussion to your advantage. Sometimes it's counterintuitive. I've occasionally had a participant raise their hand and say, halfway through a class, you know, let me just say, I don't know why we're doing this. You know, I don't know why we spent the last 20 minutes on this. And of course, you're deep inside, you're going, oh my God, what do I say to this? I mean, but ironically, I found one of the most effective things is, first of all, with a little humor. It's like, wow, that's a pretty big question. And, you know, I'd like to get some reactions. Why are we doing this? What is your sense? Martha, what have we been doing for the last 20 minutes? How do we think about it? Now, that involves an enormous amount of trust in the other participants. Okay, it's like, wait a minute, am I the only crazy one here? So it's embracing what happens, being willing to use humor, and then being willing to turn it back to the group. You know, and that could be whether there's been an unexpected challenge to you. There could be an unexpected challenge across. Someone says, I think what you said is absolutely ridiculous. And maybe this poor participant is sitting there feeling attacked. So typically say, well, whoa, that's a pretty strong statement. You know, how do others react to that? You know, so there are ways to use those moments. And frankly, those moments can be very powerful learning experiences because there's a lot of emotion in the room. It's a lot of moment to step back. And if you think about this as a learning opportunity as opposed to an attack, a challenge, something going off the rails, you can actually manage that challenging situation in a way that you might not have even anticipated. And that could be one of the most powerful moments.
And all of a sudden, what's happening?
He's obfuscating.
It does relate back to an element of listening. You know, you're listening for the words, but you're also listening for tone. You're listening for intent. You're listening for emotion. And sometimes you might hear, if you saw a script of what somebody was saying, you might interpret it very differently than if you hear them in the moment.
When people don't give you straight answers to questions, more often than not, they're hiding something.
And being sensitive to what you're hearing, you know, is this an attack? You know, is this sarcasm? You know, is this true interest? And being able to kind of distill that, interpret it as part of managing both the participation and these challenging moments.